A city held out for 10 years against the greatest army of the ancient world, and then opened its own gates to a wooden horse it had every reason to distrust. Not because no one saw the danger. Someone did. Someone always does. Here's a question worth sitting with. What's the last time your own team agreed on something a little too easily, and you told yourself that if it were really wrong, someone else would have said so by now? We assume that when intelligent people come together, the result is better than what any one of them would produce alone. More perspectives, more checks on individual blind spots. This assumption is so deep, we build our most important institutions on it: councils, boards, cabinets. But there is a specific condition under which groups don't amplify intelligence. They suppress it. Under that condition, each new person in the room becomes one more voice that could have objected and didn't. One more reason for everyone else to assume that if something were truly wrong, someone would have said so by now. This is the story of the fall of Troy, a city that had withstood the greatest army of the ancient world for 10 full years. Walls said to have been built with the help of gods. Defenders who had survived a decade that killed heroes on both sides. Troy had every reason to believe it understood the war better than anyone. 10 years of surviving is 10 years of evidence that you know what you're doing. Then one morning, the Trojans woke to find the beach empty. The Greek fleet had sailed away in the night, and alone on the sand stood an enormous wooden horse. What happened next was not a rushed decision. The Trojans gathered around the horse and debated: burn it, drown it, or bring it in as an offering. The group did exactly what groups are supposed to do, and then, one by one, the dissenting voices were neutralized. Not by argument, by something quieter. Cassandra warned them directly that the horse was a trap. But Cassandra carried a curse. She would always prophesy truly and never be believed. The group didn't refute her warning. They simply discounted the source. Then the priest Laocoon drove a spear into the horse's side, and the wood echoed as if something shifted inside. Physical evidence in front of the entire crowd. Moments later, 2 serpents rose from the sea and killed him and his sons. Stop and consider what the crowd did with that. There were 2 possible readings. Something is deeply wrong here. Or, the gods punished him for striking something holy. The crowd chose the second, instantly, almost with relief. That is the heart of this pattern. Once consensus starts forming, a group doesn't just ignore contrary evidence, it converts it into support. Laocoon's death, the strongest possible warning, became the final argument for bringing the horse inside. They tore a breach in their own walls because the horse was too large for the gates, and pulled it in with ropes and songs. The myth says it jolted to a stop 4 times, each time sounding of metal from within. 4 warnings. The crowd sang louder. That night, while Troy celebrated the end of 10 years of war, Greek soldiers climbed out and opened the gates from the inside. Troy, which had held for a decade, burned in a single night, not because its walls were breached from outside, but because the people inside chose, together, to open them. What Troy lacked was not intelligence, courage, or information. What it lacked was a group capable of hearing a dissenting voice once the consensus had started to feel good. So why do groups of intelligent people so consistently suppress exactly the information they need most? Here's what's actually happening. When a consensus starts forming, agreeing with it costs almost nothing. You blend in, the meeting moves forward. dissenting carries real, immediate, personal costs. The costs of a bad group decision, by contrast, are paid collectively and later, and people are consistently better at avoiding small, immediate costs than large, delayed ones. So individuals filter what they say, not lying, just softening, waiting to see if someone senior raises it first. And then comes the layer Troy demonstrates perfectly. The group starts reprocessing evidence to protect the consensus. A warning becomes pessimism. A dissenter gets recategorized as always negative. And sometimes a piece of evidence that should stop everything, a spear strike, a priest's death, gets flipped entirely into proof the consensus was right. The group ends up knowing less than the sum of what its members privately knew, and the decision gets made in the confident belief that if there were a real problem, someone would have said something. Everyone believed that. That's why no one said anything. Here's the whole pattern in one line. The smarter the group, the better it gets at convincing itself that the silence means agreement. The Trojan horse isn't a metaphor for this. It's the first recorded case of it. You don't need an ancient city to see this. It shows up anywhere a group's harmony has quietly become more valuable than its accuracy. A leadership team expanding into a market 3 members privately doubt. A hospital team continuing a plan a junior doctor suspects is wrong, because questioning it out loud costs more than staying silent. 2 real examples make this easy to see. In April 1961, Kennedy's administration approved the Bay of Pigs invasion of Cuba. The room contained some of the most credentialed minds in America. Several privately believed the plan was flawed. It collapsed within 3 days, exactly as those private doubts had predicted. The psychologist Irving Janis later found the same structure the myth describes. Advisors had censored their own doubts, each assuming their concern couldn't be serious enough to break the visible consensus. Decades later, in the years before the 2008 financial crisis, banks and rating agencies collectively treated mortgage-backed securities as safe, each institution treating the other's approval as independent confirmation, when it was really a single, shared blind spot reflected between mirrors. When it broke everywhere at once, because it had never been many separate judgments. It had been one judgment, echoed. Here's the paradox. The more cohesive and capable a group is, the more efficiently it suppresses the information it most needs. A dysfunctional group full of rivals argues about everything, including the truth. A brilliant, unified, harmonious group can walk a wooden horse through its own walls while singing. There is one thing that decides whether this happens to you: whether the group builds a structure that makes dissent cheap before consensus forms, not after. Cassandra's problem was never courage. She spoke. Laocoon went further. He produced physical evidence. Troy simply had no mechanism for weighing a dissenting voice once the consensus started to feel like celebration. The groups that escape this pattern don't do it by being braver in the moment. They decide in advance that someone in every important decision will be asked directly what the strongest case against it is, not invited to speak if they wish, asked. Because the whole pattern runs on one assumption, that silence means agreement. The only reliable defense is making silence impossible. Cassandra was right about the horse, right about the fire, right about everything that followed. The myth doesn't tell us she felt vindicated. It tells us she watched Troy burn, from inside the walls she'd tried to keep closed. This is Mnemarch. We look at the patterns behind human behavior, the same mistakes repeating, whether the costume is a myth, a market, or a memory. Subscribe if this is the kind of thing you think about. There's another one next week.